Welcome back to the Mastering Video Marketing Podcast. I'm Tony Reale.
And I'm Ben Carlson.
Hey, Ben. How you been?
I've been pretty good. How about you, Tony? How you been?
We missed your last episode.
I know. It sounds like you and Miles had a great time.
Yeah. It was great to get his insights. It's, that's kind of the thing going forward that we want to try and do as much as we can is just to give different perspectives of marketing. I know for a lot of people that have been on our YouTube channel for years, and thank you for all of you that have stuck around. You've seen the channel evolve. You've seen it grow from me just dinking around in my basement, building a jib out of an old clothes hanger, into starting a production company and kind of figuring out what we want it to be. And then eventually getting into all sorts of different technologies with DSLR video, depth of field adapters, motion control, most recently virtual production.
Heck yeah.
But as a company and trying to find where we want to be long term, it was always let's see what makes the most sense for us as a company to help our customers, because in order to exist as a company, you need to be solving a problem for your customers.
Right.
And just making pretty video is not always that solution that every customer has. Fundamentally, the video needs to exist to help grow their company and grow their brand and make them money.
Yeah.
And so that was that shift that we've gone through. And in that process, we've both learned so much that we want to share, but at the same time, we've kind of pivoted our channel to be like, what is NextWaveDV? How does it help support our main company? Because if it isn't supporting Creative Edge, if it isn't supporting our livelihoods, it's harder for us to justify putting into it, because ad revenue just doesn't make enough for us to put a bunch of time into it. So lead cultivation has been kind of the newest focus of NextWaveDV, in the sense of like, we want to be giving valuable content, but what do we want to be known for on the internet? What is that reputation we want to have? And so within all of that, the focus has been, well, let's share the marketing content that we've learned, what's worked with our clients, and just how that ongoing process of constantly adapting. 2 years ago, I had zero interest in short form content, and now it's become a very dominant part of our business.
Yeah, I remember it wasn't even a year ago where we were discussing why even be on TikTok.
Yep.
Why would you just want a platform with just all dancing videos on just nonstop feed, and talking through what this algorithm does and how it does it so differently, and really how it has completely changed the game. I was just watching a video recently where he was talking about kind of some of the blunders that a lot of social media managers. So this isn't even just marketing. People in social media that are doing this right now are still sticking to a model of Instagram for photo. And like, put up a pretty photo with some text on it. And there's a place for it. There is a place for it, but Instagram itself has said we're not a photo platform anymore. And that is because of TikTok. And it's funny, you have a giant like YouTube that's been doing video better than anyone else for, decades now. Can I say that? Has it been multiple decades?
2005 is when they started.
Oh gosh, we're old. But it's just interesting how it wasn't so much a platform that changed the game, it was the algorithm. And I think now we're seeing that shift into that interest-based algorithm across all the platforms. And it has opened up, you're talking about what's best for our clients. Well, we've said this on the show before, where we just got sick of our videos looking pretty and going nowhere, and not giving our clients the benefit that we know that it can provide. So by stepping in and saying, hey, let's from the creative, from the get-go, let's create this thing to be specific, and let's create this thing to work for you, not just to have a showpiece.
Well, it's also not, it means creating content that isn't reliant on the client reliant on them to be able to know what to do with it. It's again, like I have a red camera and I love it. It's wonderful, but it is not necessarily user friendly. It does require a level of expertise. So I can't just hand it to anybody and expect them to shoot great video out of it. It can shoot amazing video if you know what you're doing with it.
Yeah.
And, as opposed to like a ZV-1 or something like that, we've talked about that camera a lot. It's a great behind the scenes camera. I can give it to any grip and just shoot, and they'll get some good behind the scenes from it. Ironically, the Red will shoot way better video if you know what you're doing. The ZV-1 though will shoot better video if you don't know what you're doing.
Sure.
And so
that's interesting.
In the sense of, that's kind of what the content that we need to be doing for our clients is creating content that is it's kind of a no-brainer that they can easily implement, and or we can help them implement, so that they are then having success with it, and not just, here's this really fancy tool that I just don't know what to do with.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's not a knock to any of the marketing managers, social media managers out there. It's just, we are in an ever-changing climate, and trying to keep tabs of all of it is just, I mean, it's overwhelming. We try our best just to even handle the video side of it and really hone in on video marketing, what that looks like. And even for us, it's, as soon as you get above water, there's another wave that comes in of new information that you just kind of get to sift through and wade through and disseminate. And then we bring it onto our channels and we share it with you guys, and we hope that you appreciate it. And I would love to hear, what are some top takeaways that you guys have had, either from our podcast, from some of the shorts that you've seen. We get a lot of feedback of people saying, oh man, you're just showing up all over, people that we don't know, both locally here and in town, and getting calls from all over saying, why are you guys showing up? What are you guys doing? And it's really just that specialized focus that I think is kind of, it's really setting us apart and helping us help our clients better.
Sure. Well, I think the biggest shift for us, from a perspective standpoint, was the idea of, like, when you're young as a business and somebody comes to you and wants to buy your product or service, you're happy. You're just like, sure, let's do it. Great, buy the thing. And the shift for us in more recent years is somebody comes to us and says, I need a video. Instead of saying, great, we say, why?
Yeah.
Because that shift from just giving them the video because they want a video into, let's really figure out why you want a video. What are you going to use it for? What are we trying to grow with it? And be much more purposeful about it. Because again, going back to the short comment, years ago, I would have never poured energy into short form content as a business model for us. I would have been like, oh, we shoot bigger and better projects, bigger clients, bigger commercial. Like, that was the growth idea. Yeah. Instead of a growth to bigger projects, it's now a growth to being able to help more clients with their individual needs. And again, short form content being a very necessary tool in the toolkit.
Sure.
Not to say that it's the only tool, but we're talking about long-term marketing at this point. There's short-term and there's long-term. And when it comes to video marketing, that long-term is creating valuable assets that your customers can come back to, that they get familiar with. So again, creating content like shorts, even longer form content. Like, there's a reason that we don't just only do shorts. We're doing the podcast right now. We have other educational videos on our channel that kind of answer a lot of those questions. So, and at the end of the day, people have questions, they're going to search for them, and they can either find your content or they can find your competition's content.
Right. Yeah.
But then, of course, the short-term marketing in video is, of course, advertising. So social media ads and the way that those have evolved over the years. What was considered a short hook back in, say, 2010 through 2015, it might have been like the first 10 to 30 seconds we would have considered the hook.
Yeah.
Now it's 3 to 5 seconds.
Yep.
And if you try to use that stuff the way that it worked back then and try to expect it to work again, it just won't work as well.
Right.
So yeah, constantly evolving, constantly changing is absolutely necessary. And so it's kept us challenged. It's kept us constantly going back and trying to learn more, from other people that are doing it successfully, seeing the things that aren't succeeding as well. It's one of the reasons that, we in our new webinar, our new masterclass that we just finally got online. It's been taking us a while to do it, but the video Pathfinder, you can go to videopathfinder.com, and we talk a lot about how businesses are doing social media backwards a lot of times. And so the things that they prioritize, we talk about, the first category we talk about is polished posts, where they will do these really beautifully designed,
those pictures with words on Instagram. Yeah.
Super nice. And they think those are great. And it's not that they don't look good.
Yeah.
It's that they aren't getting people's attention.
They're not
they
effective.
aren't engaging.
Yeah.
So again, we don't in the webinar, which again, you can sign up for completely free right now. We talk about, like, that's still good content to have in there, sprinkled in like garnish.
Yeah.
It's like, have a little bit of that. But there are a lot of businesses that only do that.
Right.
And they wonder why. And they actually just kind of write off social media as a whole. They're like, gosh, social media isn't beneficial to us. Yeah. Okay, well, there's a lot of people that are doing tons with social media, making tons of money, getting tons of customers. you can't say that it doesn't work. When it does work, you're just not doing it the right way.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyways, again, check out videopathfinder.com. We're really excited about that. Tons of great content in that webinar, completely free to sign up for right now.
I know I'm biased, but one of the benchmarks for me and this is kind of what took so long in getting it out was, is this worth watching? And that's one of my takeaways after, as we were producing it, as even rewatching it for all the times we had heard the information and gone through it and take after take and making sure that it was really honed in to exactly what we wanted. I still get stuff out of it. And that's exciting to still say, wow, this is, even now I want to sit down and take notes and be like, man, I forgot about that part. Let's, really hone in on that. So a ton of great information, absolutely free. So feel free to take a check. That's a shameless plug right there.
Oh, there's plenty of shame. All right, Ben, I want to ask you about your journey.
Oh boy.
I think like Jimmy and Sean, for those of you that have known the channel for a while, they like, I started Creative Edge in 2009, just out of my basement as a place to just, honestly, originally just a reason to write off some of the camera equipment. Once I started adding up. I'm like, I've got about at least $5,000 in gear. I should probably write this off at some point.
Sure.
So I did that, and then I started getting, built a website. It was just a creative outlet for me, and originally, and it evolved, and I started looking for people that because I knew that I have limitations. It's not just the fact that I can't, you can only go so far on your own. There's that. There is the necessity of working with people of a like-mindedness that create, a creative mind alone in a corner, just by yourself, you can burn out so quickly. Yeah. And when you have another like-minded individual that wants to go in the same direction and gets excited about the same things, it helps so much. And Jimmy and Sean were that for a while, but as our company evolved, Jimmy has focused on other things now, and it left a gap for us. And you've been a longtime friend of mine.
Yeah.
You've known Sean and I for years, and you've worked with us on several projects. Yeah. In fact, we went to Africa a few years back to do a documentary for a well drilling ministry, and Jimmy wasn't able to make it for that, so you stepped in. And in fact, you were doing photography too, because my wife had just gotten pregnant, so she wasn't able to. She was going to go and do the photography as well. So, anyways, we've had this off and on working relationship, and then all of a sudden, the opportunity arose for you to start working with us. Like, Jimmy had to step back. You had you were looking for a place, and it just all worked out really well. And even for that, it changed throughout even the last year plus that you've been working here. At first it was like you maybe account manager, and then you just kind of stepped up to being a full partner and really helping guide us as we move forward. But I really want to talk about your story, because that's just that little slice that you've been working with us. Yeah. But as a creative, both as a creative and also as in the previous roles that you've had, there's that mixture of things that you've been able to learn and bring to developing content creation for businesses. Yeah. So
thank you. That was a warm introduction, probably more than I deserve, but I'll take it. So it started back, I'm a horrible artist. I can't do abstract painting to save my life. Like I've tried it, and I got like where you get the little textures and you get the palette paint knife and you're going, and there's no wrong way to do it. I found a way. And so I realized very quickly that sketching, painting, drawing is not my strong suit, but I still wanted to capture the world around me. So I've always had an affinity for photography. Usually it was just with a small little digital camera that I would take on my travels. But there came a point where I've been dating my girlfriend at the time for about 5 years, or no, 3 years. We were into it a ways, and I knew I wanted to propose, and I wanted to get it on camera, but I couldn't just show up with a video camera just out of the blue. So I thought, I'm going to get into photography. So that way I was playing the long game. I knew that, in a year or two, when I finally proposed, it wouldn't be weird for me to bust out a camera. That's a whole nother long story. It was really weird that I busted out a camera at 10 o'clock at night in Dallas, downtown Dallas. It was so hot, so hot. She was cranky. I was nervous. Anyway, long story.
Can I butt in?
Yeah.
I actually, for not to steal your thunder, I just wanted to say I almost had an identical story for how I proposed to my wife.
Really?
So we were Ironically, we had been talking about marriage way before I proposed.
Yep.
Like we had been talking about it, and so it wasn't a surprise that was the goal that we were going with.
Yep.
So we were visiting the spot that we were planning on getting married before I had proposed, and it was at her folks' cottage that she grew up at.
Nice.
And it was in the winter time, and so we walked out to the spot, and I just kind of said, the sun's really nice. I had my camera bag with me. I just want to take a quick picture, so I bent down and opened the bag, and instead of pulling out the camera, I pulled out the ring.
Nice. See, that would have been a much better way to do it. Because I actually tried to make her take a picture after, and like we were both like just pouring sweat. It was dark. It was hot. We were tired. Anyway, so from that though, it allowed me to explore photography, and I think all have a very similar background of we didn't go to school for this. This is a lot of it is self-taught. It's I've used you as a sounding board. I've used Sean, when it comes to gear and lighting. Several other photographer friends that have been great mentors, and also just disseminating so much information online. It is incredible the world that we live in now, where you can learn a trade online and you can become you can with practice, but with research and study, you can really become great. Not that I am, but just that's the level of information if you really go after it.
I think at the beginning, you start off with the perspective of, all right, what's the right way and what's the wrong way?
Yeah.
There's a right way to doing photography, to doing lighting, and then there's the wrong way. And then for a lot of novice photographers, early photographers, once they learn that, they get like locked into that. Like,
Yeah.
all right, and I think the biggest growing point for me was when I was able to break free of that and go, how can I now be creative within that, knowing what the main things are. There's a science to it for sure, but there's definitely the art form to it, and learning how to be creative within the structure of what's right and what's wrong is where I was able to then develop my own style and then be consistent with that style.
Yeah, and from that, actually, here's a little quick tip for any photographers that are looking to getting into it. And this came from you, because it wasn't just like right or wrong. It was, what's the best? Is it Canon? Is it Nikon? Is it what? Sony wasn't as big of a player back then. It was really Canon and Nikon. And I was like, what camera body? What should I get? What lenses do I need? And he said, it doesn't matter. Go pick one. And invest in glass, because that's really where your money is going to be spent, and that's where you're going to see the biggest results. And so that's why I think you had mentioned, just go on, see what looks the best. Go on and look at sample pictures, see what color looks that you like, and go with that one, and then go out and shoot a ton. And so that would be my advice to you. If you're wondering, what camera should I get? Find one that's in your price point. Find one that you like. There's a ton of image galleries and a ton of information out there where you can go and see sample pictures of lenses and cameras, and go check it out, and then pick which one you like, and then just go shoot a ton. Shoot a ton. Don't stop shooting.
My biggest challenge would always be when you're first getting started in photography is, get familiar with your camera, but then challenge yourself to shoot in manual only for the first month.
Yeah.
I did that to my wife, and because initially I have friends that call themselves professional photographers that only shoot in aperture priority or auto or something like that. And it's like, there are plenty of times that those settings are necessary. Sports photography, a certain, event photography, weddings, stuff like that. But there are also times where, like, if you don't know why a photo, I always say there's three things to a professional before you can call yourself a professional. You need to know how to take a great image.
Yep.
You need to have great equipment to take a great image, and you need to know how to use that equipment to shoot a great image.
Yeah.
And that last one, a lot of times photographers will, if you take a good image, but you don't know why it's good.
Yeah.
Is it the focal length? Is it the lighting?
Right.
90% of the time, the reason an image is good is because of the lighting.
Yeah.
You can take a crappy, cheap camera. You can take your cell phone. If the lighting is great, you're going to have a good image.
Yeah.
So that's why I focused all my energy on learning lighting, because first of all, like we just said, like, great lighting means great images, but then also that's the thing that is easier to control than almost anything else. Once you have to get the equipment, of course, but being able to control the lighting and being able to know how to recreate certain looks and everything like that, then means I can walk into any circumstance and know I can get a good image.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, I know we're kind of riffing here now and kind of going off topic, and I apologize, but that brings up a great point, because the other side of that is not just knowing how to get good lighting, but that other side of knowing your equipment. Because then what happens if I don't have the lighting? What if I'm shooting in Antelope Canyon and I have about 16 different stops of light that I need to expose for properly, or else the shot is going to be junk and my entire trip is wasted? Well, now what do you do?
Yep.
And so you really have to understand the fundamentals of your camera, which again, pretty much everything out there, including cell phones, you can get some incredible photos if you know how to use it. And so, yeah, so that's what I did. And it was a lot of practice. One challenge, I know this is becoming a photography tip day, but the other thing that I still love to do is disposable camera mode, where I'll give myself 24 exposures and I'll close the viewfinder. I won't turn on the viewfinder, and I'll just start shooting. Not just like click, 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 but really taking the time, compose the shots. Do I have this lighting the where I need it? Do I have my the f-stop where I want? What am I shooting and why am I shooting it? And I think that's one piece of advice that I received, and I pass on to anyone that's asking, how do I get into photography? What makes your pictures stand out? It's not just what, I say, oh, I like this microphone stand. Why? And that's really what captured me, and what I could never get in painting or drawing is the why it stood out. I could probably sketch out this microphone very roughly, and you would say, wow, I guess that's a microphone. But you wouldn't see the complexity of the way that the strings are holding this, and you wouldn't see the detail, and you wouldn't see the shadows and the contrast. And so once you figure out your why, then you can now say, all right, equipment, how do we capture that? And what do we do? What's an interesting way to tell that story? And what's an interesting way to capture that why? And it may be with the forethought of, I'm going to do this in post-processing. I'm going to do this in Lightroom. I'm going to Photoshop, whatever it may be. It used to be Photoshop was kind of a 4-letter word. And I think we're coming back around to a place where it is such a powerful tool that, yes, you can over-abuse it. But it is, if you go in where you think, I'm going to take this and I know exactly how I can manipulate this photo to be able to convey the message, convey the why of why I thought this was worth taking in the first place, I think that's a really fun place to explore.
I think a lot of it too is like using Photoshop to finish the photo.
Yeah.
Not to fake something or whatever like that, but like knowing a lot of times, like my wife and I, she does photography as well.
She's incredible.
I agree. But she like, she, and to your in my interaction with you as well, I've realized like the thing that I don't steer towards photography mainly because when I'm shooting, when I'm lighting, when I'm doing, I'm in director of photography mode, and I like to focus on all the details and everything like that. I'm not as good at interacting directly with the talent.
Yeah.
It's just hard to manage all that. And there's some people that can. Some people are great at balancing both of those things. I am better at focusing on all the technical stuff and the image, and then I need like either a director or somebody else working directly with that talent to get the performance out of them. And same thing, you and Rebecca, my wife, are both great at pulling out the life of a person to get from posing to expression to just making them feel comfortable. And I can't balance both of those. So that's why I really like partnering with each of you when we're doing shoots, because I know that then we're getting the best response from the person. I can have amazing lighting, but if their expression is bad, if they're posed incorrectly, then you're just not going to get a good image. So in that regard though, like being able to focus on making that person feel comfortable, making them look the way that they are supposed to, and then saying later on, all right, we're just gonna add this other thing. You want a lens flare? We could add that in Photoshop. We want to defocus the background. Sure, we just hop on and pull the subject out there and add a little bit extra shallowed up the field and into the background. Like a lot of these things that. Oh, you want to pretend like there is a windmill in the distance, or what? Any of those things you can do, or even like probably the thing that most novice photographers, are probably beat themselves up is like, how do we get the sky exposed when we're exposing for the person?
Sure.
And you might spend years going, I don't understand how to do this, and then you suddenly realize it's all done in Photoshop.
Yeah.
There is no exposure where you get the sky exposed unless you're putting a flash on the person,
Yep.
which sometimes happens, but then it's a different look you're getting for sure.
Yeah.
No, just replacing the sky in Photoshop is 10 times easier.
There's a reason it's a really quick drop down function.
Yeah.
Because people do it all the time. It's not some abstract. If you want to just look up YouTube tutorials on how to replace the sky, it's so easy. So easy. And it can be done very well. And it can make a shot. I've used it in several of my shots, especially with some of the corporate shots where, hey, we have to shoot on a cloudy, ugly winter day, and I have to make that sky pop. Yeah, absolutely. This is a hot take. I appreciate the compliment. I would tell you one of my weakest parts is how I interact. That's how I interact with the talent and posing. To this day, I still struggle with, oh my gosh, am I saying the right thing? Am I directing them the right way? Oh, this sounds weird. And you get in your head. So that comes back to just go out and shoot. If you want to get into this, or even if you've been into it, shoot as much as you can. You could probably get to the point where you can start charging, but if you really just want to practice and get out there, find someone that'll let you say, hey, do you mind if I take some portraits? Well, it's a beautiful day. I do need to practice. You can have the prints. I just need the time. And I've yet to find someone that's like, no, thanks. I would rather not get, and it may not be them, but it's like, hey, can we get your dog? Can we get your kids? Like, let's, a couple, whatever it may be. But that for me is still something that I practice intensely to this day. Cause that's something where I was like, I know my camera, I know I can shoot, I know I can create beautiful pictures, but it really is that, how do you make them feel comfortable in front of the camera? And that is something that a lot of people have naturally, but I feel like even the people that have it naturally, at least in the photographers I know, have worked a long time to not just get comfortable, but also build up a reputation of this person is great to work with. And you've said this a lot, where when you're hiring a wedding photographer, it's not about will they take a good picture of your wedding day? Is this person that's going to be on your dance floor someone that you want to be on your dance floor with you? And once
you spend the most time with probably your wedding photographer on your wedding day, probably more than your spouse.
Absolutely. Oh, hands down more than your spouse. Because the photographer is there when you're getting ready, when each of you is getting ready. You're there on the dance floor, and throughout the ceremony, or not the ceremony, throughout the reception, the husband and wife, or husband, the partners are usually separated, talking to different people. The photographer's there.
Yep.
And so
they color the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so who you jive with is going to, it's like picking out your doctor or something like that. You want somebody that not just can do a good job, but also makes you feel comfortable and really enhances the day for you.
Exactly. So all that said, how did I get from photography to now?
One thing I want to say real quick,
okay,
before we migrate from photography, I just want one tip to pop in.
Yep.
If you are looking for ways to cut your teeth, and one suggestion I would have is reach out to any photographer friends that you have and offer to take some shots for them.
Yeah.
It's this weird thing where oftentimes the photographer, it's like the barber that has the bad haircut. It's like, the best barber in town usually has the worst haircut because he can't go to himself.
Yeah.
And the same thing in photography. A lot of times, my wife and I would get frustrated because we'd shoot great pictures of everybody else, and we never have good headshots for ourselves. And so, one thing I would suggest is go reach out to a photographer friend that you have, offer to shoot some headshots, because most of the time they may say, "Hey, great, yeah, I don't get that opportunity," and they value it and know the necessity of it. And then also going with the expectation, like, please tell me anything that you think I could improve. Don't go in thinking I know what I'm doing. Be open to critique, because that's going to be a great time for you to learn, and they're going to then feel more comfortable to say, if you're just trying to cut your teeth with them, and then that you won't be open to any feedback, they might not even want to use the photos.
Yeah, right.
So be open to the critiquing, give it to them for free. You can learn so much in that period,
Absolutely.
and they will definitely value it.
Absolutely. So. Anyway, so the jump from there to here. So I worked for a long time in the captivating field of toilet paper making. Here in the Fox Valley area of Wisconsin, it is the holy mecca of toilet paper. Here in Lucca, Italy, are the two main hubs. Just a little trivia for you. That's where most of the global tissue production, I would say, is done, hubbed out of, or at least centered around, Green Bay and Lucca,
It's weird the
Italy.
things that we're known for. And like if you go about an hour and a half north of here, ginseng, one of the top ginseng locations in the world.
And what I mean, to the point where it's a major, like China is importing our ginseng.
Like we did a video for our company one time where because it was all about the quality control, because people are from other countries, like especially in Asia, are counterfeiting Wisconsin made ginseng.
Yeah.
So they had to come up with a cool way of dealing with those counterfeiting. So it's interesting what we're known for.
Well, it's, and that's one of the things that I love about this industry is that we get to be a part of just such varied industries. And that's what, that's what always made toilet paper making so fascinating for me, because it was every day was like how it's made, the TV show, How It's Made. And so I was responsible for everything touching the Mississippi River west. And then at one point it was all of Central and South America, and I was doing their sales and technical service. I was their lead technician and sales manager. And then it was everything touching the Mississippi River west, minus Wisconsin, because Wisconsin had so much, it got its own territory manager, which put it in perspective. We had 2 people for the eastern part of the United States, 1 person for the western part of the United States, and 1 person for Wisconsin, because there's that much toilet paper. So little tidbit for you. Anyway, sorry. So once I got into that role, I was traveling a lot. I was on the road about 60-70% of the time. And I brought my camera with me, because, I would travel with some of these sales guys, and it was like, they would go from the airport to the Applebee's to the hotel. They would see the customer, back to the airport, and that was their time. And that was actually that was my first visit to Portland. It was airport, sports bar, hotel, customer, airport. Oh, how was Portland? I have no idea.
Yeah.
I could not tell you.
So many times we go on those trips and you're like, I'm in this great area, and I saw none of it.
Yeah, right. And so one thing that I loved about bringing my camera, it was an investment of, I mean, I would usually carry my extra camera bag, and I have my lenses. And so I was like, all right, if I'm going through all this trouble to bring this camera, I'm going to go out and use it. And it forced me to get out. It forced me to go explore and that's how I discovered such incredible city. Memphis is an incredible city. Tulsa, Oklahoma, shout out. I love you. Anyone from Tulsa that's watching, hit me up in the comments, because it's one of my favorite cities in the US because of getting out and exploring it, of seeing it, and not just seeing, going back to it. I wasn't just looking at the what. I was like, oh, that's a nice building, but why? Why is this city so incredible? Why is it so neat? And the truth is, they're putting a ton of money into it. There's a ton of neat architecture. There's a ton of things to do, great restaurants. So I would go out and I would try and find those places in any city that I went, just to stave off boredom. And if I knew that I was going to be away from my family for that long, I better get something out of it. And photography for me was that, worth it. It was, and so, I was places that a lot of photographers dream of going and shooting, like Buenos Aires, like Switzerland, France, Germany, Peru, all these places. I was getting all expense paid trips. And as long as my work was getting done and the money was coming in and the customer reports were coming in, my boss made it very clear that, we understand we're pulling you away from your family, so take time for you. And that was my time for me. It was going out and exploring. And, but that, that was always just a hobby. It was always kind of a side thing. I would step in and do some shots, if the company needed some product shots or some company photos, I would take a couple. But it was nothing really ever more than that until 2020 hit. And, one of the things that we offered our clients was free technical support, which in that industry, you don't get technical support for under $5,000 to $10,000 just to have someone come out and see you. And so for us to say, hey, we'll offer it for free as long as you're using our product. Great. It was a great value added. But 2020 came around and all the doors slammed shut, and that value added proposition now meant zero, because we couldn't do any of it. And so the question was, well, how do you still offer value? How do you still, it's something that we knew our clients needed. It's, they still needed that technical support. They still needed that expertise. They still needed training. But we had no way to get it to them. And so it was actually very serendipitous that, like you said, we had been working throughout this time. We were doing some projects together, and anytime I came back up to Green Bay, I would stop in at the arcade and see what you guys were up to. But you guys were working with Georgia Pacific, doing some virtual reality. Georgia Pacific had kind of been stepping into it about the same time that I had stepped in and started doing virtual reality training. And that's one of the things that we've started offering here, where you could go in and into these highly hazardous, dangerous environments, set up a 360 degree camera, do the training. And it was COVID, so we were able to do it 6 feet apart. We just had a microphone. We were masked up, but we were able to provide the training and then set them down social distance away, and they could still go through the entire training process. We still were able to add our value, but we had to think outside the box. We had to recreate. We had to generate new ideas in a field that I would tell you most people probably don't think needs that much innovation. You know, it's toilet paper making. My job was to teach people how to make it and cut it really well and safely. Where's the innovation for that? And I think, you know, that's a common thing, was once we get into this mindset of like, oh, this is the way we've always done it, we kind of stick to it and it works. And so we're just going to go with it. But they're, especially in this ever changing role where we have social media, where we have AI is going leaps and bounds, there are ways to optimize. There are ways to innovate that you probably haven't even thought of. So we did AR training, and then we did VR training, and then AR technical support, where we teamed up with Vuzix, this is, again, they're not sponsored, but they're an awesome company. And they've been leading away. They were doing innovation in augmented reality glasses. While everyone was saying this is going to fail, you might as well be making laser discs. And they're like, I think it'll catch. Well, 2020 hit, and everyone was doing augmented reality then. And so it was a great partnership where we were able to develop technical support and training and give our customers that same value. And also, we discovered a new line of revenue for the company, where we could now offer, you know, yes, we had a free service, but if you wanted more above and beyond, you wanted to have on demand, anywhere that we were in the world, we could jump onto our computer. We didn't have to set up a call to go out and see you. We didn't have to fit you into a schedule. We could just jump on and tech support and do some diagnostics right over the computer, right over the phone. It was a game changer. And so from there, you know, I went to a company that actually made the equipment, and it wasn't the right fit. I was back into a sales role, not a people role, and I wanted to get back, and I missed that creative. I missed editing. I missed being able to go out and shoot. And so, you know, back in last year, almost a year ago, coming up on a year and a month, I think.
I saw the year notification on LinkedIn.
Yeah, a year and a bit. Came on here because I love what you guys have done, and knowing you guys for so long. It's been fun to be a part. It was going to be good to be a part of Creative Edge Productions and you know, get to work on some cool sets. But I think where we are headed is it's that innovation that I was so desperately seeking, and it's neat to be part of it.
Well, you know, we've talked many times about, like, you know, when you try and get new customers, you know, there's lots of ways to do that. There's obviously, like, you know, your website and your SEO. When people are searching on Google, do you come up? Where do you come up? And are you high enough for them to then find you off of that? There's advertising, of course, where you're, you know, doing either Google ads, Facebook ads, LinkedIn, like, you know, getting your name out there. And then there's direct interactions, whether it's cold calling, warm calling, networking events. You know, we kind of have that account manager sales position. And that's initially where we kind of had placed you, is because we recognize that's probably that was the biggest hole in our company.
Sure.
We had a really good web presence, and if you were looking, you would find us, but not everybody's looking. Yeah. And honestly, some of the best clients that we would want to interact with aren't looking. Yeah. Because they're either, you know, they have a way of doing things that they're, like you mentioned before, they're set in their ways, and it works fine. Yeah. But there's this whole other possibility. You know, we try to focus on new technologies, new ways of incorporating video into marketing. Again, we've talked about all over the channel about all the different ways that we try to do it. And so if a client is working with a company or their internal team that hasn't updated, they don't even know the value of some of those other things, or haven't even considered it because this is just not where they're specialized in, there's an opportunity for them to still be a business, even if they are working with somebody else. And so we recognize that need to work with a person that could focus on that client relation, because there's managing a project that comes in. You got to deal with all of the production, the script writing, the client approval, the booking talent, locations, all that kind of stuff. But then there's also the managing of new clients or existing clients. And we recognize none of us in the company existing were great at that.
Sure.
We're okay at it, but we weren't great at it. And I'd known for years just both in your experience of working with those other companies and the role that you had there, but just interacting together. Like
Sure.
you grew up in the church, and you're pastor's kid, and
Shout out.
there's a pastoral role that you have that just kind of built into your DNA.
Sure.
And that's something that, even if you're not necessarily doing that specific role within a company, there's a quality that you bring to your interactions with our customers that I really do appreciate. So it's again, filling in those holes and knowing that each one of us has a thing that we're great at, and we can each fall into the other role. Like you still do photography within the company. There's times where you go out and shoot. That isn't your primary role, but that's, we all bounce around. Same thing with Sean. Sean shoots, I edit. We all bounce around these different roles. But I'm saying like Sean does shoot sometimes.
I was gonna say, I was like, wait a minute.
And I do edit sometimes.
Gotcha.
Those aren't our primary roles. But there are times where we still need to do it. NextWaveDV, most of that stuff is edited by me. And so, that's just, and that's why a lot of times we haven't had a chance to do it. Fortunately, as our company has grown, we've been able to bring on more staff. And so we're trying to crank out more NextWaveDV content. We've said it in the past, like, when we get busy, that's the time where we create the least amount of content, which is when we should be creating the most kind of content, because we have those success stories. And social proof is such an important part of your marketing that we need to focus on that better ourselves. So we're still learning, we're still improving. But all that said, having you as a part of the team has allowed us to grow in totally new directions. And again, Jimmy was great, but like, you and I have really just got super excited about virtual production. And again, that's among all the other things that we're doing. Trying to learn a whole new technology is challenging, so we have to kind of divide it up. We have to say, all right, and again, within our agency side of things, like I handle a lot of the social media advertising, like on Facebook and other platforms, while you handle a lot of like the email marketing.
The business development side of it.
Like dividing and conquering is so much easier, because you can't be amazing at every single thing. Maybe you can. I don't know, but I know I can't.
Sure.
And so really honing in and
You're pretty close.
I appreciate that, but there's only so much that you can really grasp and specialize in, as we keep talking about. Like you can be a generalist, but if you want to be valuable enough to specialize in it, you will hit a capacity. So surrounding yourself with the people that complement you is just going to be better for you and your company. So it's been a lot of fun. And, also again, within all the other aspects, we, Creative Edge Productions, Creative Edge Concepts, NextWaveDV is this side thing. And yet we have figured out, because of we've rejuvenated it because it's something that we're excited about. Sean is crazy busy. He's popped on a few times, but he not only is the editor for Creative Edge, but he also is the main manager for the arcade. So
and one of the main of the esports as well.
Right, exactly. So he just doesn't have as much time to be able to create this content or edit or whatever like that. So if I was reliant completely on him, things wouldn't get done. So we had to find a structure that totally worked. And so it's just been this constant evolution that we've gone through. And again, for people watching, you may be like, why is the channel used to be about this? Now it's about that. Well, that's our choice to pivot. We still want to be creating valuable content as we go forward, but we definitely recognize that we need to be also finding ways to benefit our company and grow our company. And we found that we can do it both simultaneously, because originally NextWaveDV was just about filmmaking training, which is not, unless we're selling online courses, which we used to, but I haven't updated those in a long time, so they're a bit dated, so we just stopped selling them. We're actually thinking about redoing some, so maybe in the future, stay tuned. But evolving that and kind of casting a larger net, and then going after audiences that, of that, there's small, tiny, itty bitty percent that would be a potential client, but they still are out there.
Yeah.
We still interact with them. We still get emails from them saying, "Hey, I saw your stuff on YouTube. I need help with my video marketing. Reach out," and it generates business for us. So it's great when we can kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, we can give value to the audience. We can grow our audience, and then we can also slowly get in a few customers here and there over time.
And I know I've said this before, but I think the other part of it is, yes, it has been a while since, some of the NAB coverage. But the hope would be, and kind of maybe in this perfect world, we hope that you as the audience have come along on this journey with us, where it was like, oh man, I want to learn about depth of field adapters. I want to learn about motion control. I want to learn about lighting. And as you've learned, you've been able to grow your business. And so we want to invite you along with us, and kind of, hopefully you're at a point where either you're making this as a full-time gig or even a side gig, but saying, what can I do to the next step? Well, come along. And that's really what we're exploring, is that next step and this next evolution in where digital video is going.
Yeah. Well, and I know so many people that I was connected with online because of NextWaveDV, or just because of other filmmakers that I met at NAB, that we're friends on Facebook, and I see them drifting away. They don't do video anymore. They don't, they've moved on to other things. So people change.
Yeah.
People evolve, and what excites them and what interests them can also change. Yeah. And we still love video, but we've also recognized that long term, just making pretty images is not the direction that we want to leave our company at.
Yeah.
Like, we want to be more valuable to our clients than that. And so again, we're showing you that journey, and we're showing you that transition.
And if you want to come along, click like, click subscribe. We try and get these out weekly. And then Tony is a monster at creating short form content of just trying. Our whole goal is value added. That's really what we want to be. And there might be some dissent out there on how much value that is to each individual, but our goal is, this is stuff that benefited us and was value to us, that we just want to kind of bring into one spot and share with you to hopefully to build it. So come along, follow along if you haven't already.
Welcome to the Pop Culture Corner.
Pop Culture Corner.
Huzzah. All right. Well, I'll just hop in quick and mention Star Trek Picard. I'm watching it. I'm loving it.
Oh, I didn't know you're a Star Trek fan.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
A little tidbit.
We are, as of this recording, the most recent episode is episode 5. It's just great. It's great to have Trek back. Episode 4 was amazing. Some of the best Trek in a super long time. And the way that they've been structuring it, it's just super intelligently written. One of the things I love about it is, a lot of times when you're watching modern dramas, they'll set up a mystery and then they'll leave you with a little cliffhanger. And then the next episode, they don't mention it. Then they give you another mystery. And then you spend the whole series just going, all right, are they ever going to tie this up?
Sure.
I don't even remember half the mysteries by the time I get to the end of it. Picard has done a great job of there's a couple overarching mysteries that will take you through the whole show, but a lot of times, like, all right, it's not too much of a spoiler. I'm going to say one minor spoiler, so you can skip ahead a minute if you want to. But in the second episode, they reveal that Picard has a son, and I think, because, like, if you watch any of the trailers, you kind of like, I'm pretty sure. But that's the thing about it, is like they don't leave you like waiting the entire season. Is it his son? Is it not his son? And then a part of it is like, okay, how did that even happen? Because and so there's drama in that. It's really well written. It isn't this like super soap opera thingy.
Sure.
It's well thought out, well written, and so it's just great. And again, when they reveal a mystery, the next episode they resolve it quickly and then allow the story to progress. So it's just really smart.
Nice.
I hope to see Terry Matalas doing a lot more, hopefully Star Trek. I know that he's working on a series for like a Return to Witch Mountain type series for Disney Plus. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, I'm just liking everything the guy's putting out. So the 12 Monkeys was great. I need to get you finished on that show.
Yep. I think I'm season 3, episode 4.
You're close. So it's only 4 seasons. So, all right. So beyond that, I started watching The Tick, which is a weird jump back. Like the Amazon Prime one. I know there's only 1 season of it. I don't know if it has any resolution at the end of that season. I have no idea.
How is it?
It's entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
it's a nice breakaway from, you know, the seriousness of Marvel or any of the other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
My wife and I are laughing. It's funny.
Can I tell you a hot take?
Yeah.
I don't mind Green Lantern.
Okay.
Going to obscure, because I think there was a whole, like, in that superhero realm, you have like the icons. You have your Iron Mans, your Thors, your Spider-Mans, your Batmans. But then there were people like the Tick and the Flash, which they have their own following. I'm not saying they don't, but they're clearly not as much. But I didn't realize how much hate Green Lantern received. Was it the best movie ever? No. But is it? Sure. For the coffee machine alone, I was in. But yeah, that's
I never got around to watching it. It was that a peak time of like oversaturation, and so if
Sure.
the movie isn't good, like the MCU films, I will watch them because I'm invested in the universe.
yeah.
But yeah, and that's the only reason. Like Ant-Man, we've heard mixed reviews on it. I was looking forward to seeing that in theaters. I might just wait for Disney Plus at this point.
Sure.
Still watch it, but yeah, it's because I'm interested in seeing where the characters are going to go, and I'm sure it's going to be a pivotal part of the MCU. They mentioned that it was kind of like Civil War level implications for
Okay.
like how it affects the MCU moving forward. So I know I'll have to watch it for that reason,
Sure.
but I'm not as eager to watch it as I used to be.
Yeah. I that's really surprising because I was going in with very high expectations just because I love Paul Rudd. And I don't think that he can put out a bad movie, but apparently the critics would beg to differ.
I'll be curious to see what made it bad. You
Right.
know, like, and I'm sure people will leave a comment maybe if they didn't
Please
say
do.
the reason.
Yeah.
But I still, I'm eager to see. I've heard good stuff about, like, you know, that a lot of people are saying like Kang was a great villain, just in the wrong film. You know, like, so
okay.
that's as long, you know, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
But you know, we always talk about like MCU as what they're doing, how can they keep staying relevant. I heard one of the execs at Marvel got let go because of quality control issues. Like, there's a lot of complaints with the animation, the CG work
interesting.
in Ant-Man. Again, I haven't seen it, so I don't have an opinion yet. But so it'll be interesting to see if that changes things going forward. Yeah, I'm all for the differentiation between things. Like, I know some people didn't like She-Hulk. I was fine with it for what it was.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm glad that there is stuff in that. Like, again, I grew up with Star Trek.
Yeah.
And so Star Trek was almost like an anthology show always.
Sure.
One week you would have a comedy episode, another week you'd have a horror episode, another week you'd have a thriller episode, another week you'd have a drama, a courtroom drama. I'm used to that. And I think, like, I honestly, some of the Star Wars stuff I get burnt out on because it's like the same tonal thing
Sure.
more often than not. You know, they do mix it up a little bit, but so for Marvel to hop around and to do it show by show instead of, or movie by movie instead of, like, you know, like in Star Trek where it's episode by episode.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I think that's necessary.
Right.
You know, like, would you want to watch, you know, if there were like 2 or 3 James Bond movies coming out every year, would you burn out on that? Probably.
Right.
So if one movie is a you know, like Ragnarok is a comedy, buddy road trip comedy, and then you have like Ant-Man being a heist film, and then you have Captain America Winter Soldier spy thriller. Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That makes me interested in watching it, not just for how the universe is intertwined, but just it's a different genre, so it feels different and fresh and unique.
Can I wrap this all up, all into one? They are being intentional with their content, and just like where you should be intentional with what you're creating and where you're putting it. I think that's something that Marvel has done, and really for me, it hit home in not Mrs. Maisel, gosh,
Miss Marvel.
nope. Oh goodness,
Give me something. WandaVision.
WandaVision. I kept on wanting to say Wakanda Vision, Wakanda Forever, and then it just was not coming.
That
I
needs to be
apologize.
in a show now. WakandaVision.
Wakanda Vision. It should. Awesome. I would watch it. But I was very put off by WandaVision at first because I got about 12, 13 minutes in and I thought, what did they do? And what is this? And it wasn't until someone said, watch it all the way through. Everything is for a purpose. And that's something that I think really Marvel has done a very good job of. Everything is intentional. You know, what even into what they're putting out on Disney Plus, and you know, with Loki and some of the pivotal things that have happened on that show, where it's like, oh gosh, like where is this leading? And you can see the breadcrumbs coming out.
It's funny because like you hear a lot of people complain like, oh, I don't want homework. I don't want to have to watch all this stuff to watch a movie. I don't know, man. You know, then fine, watch DC, I guess. You know, or be okay with not knowing exactly everything that's going on. I like that it's interconnected, and I like that I'm rewarded as an audience for being engaged in all the different content.
Well, and I think in the world that we live in, it's gotten a lot smaller where we get a lot of different perspectives, but we never get the full story of what's happening on the other side of it. And so there would be no way to tell Marvel Universe's stories in one film to try and get all those different sides and get all the complexities and all the nuances of the character development. You have to create an entire universe and explore each one individually to understand how they fit. If you don't want to watch Loki or WandaVision, that's fine. But it's just like everyday life. You'll go into a situation not having the full context of what's going on that someone might have. And that may create a better or worse viewing experience for you. I don't know. But I think it is a realistic one that you don't have to have all the information. When in our normal conversations, we don't get all the information. It creates a more full picture when we do. But
well, like I was watching Spider-Man: Homecoming the other night with my kids for the first time with them, and you know, obviously Vulture as a villain, you know, he got his powers, his technology from you know, the alien tech, the Chitauri and everything. So they could have come up with something else. He could have had his own. Like obviously in Iron Man 2, they had to how can Whiplash be as powerful or beat Tony Stark? Well, he had to create his own arc reactor. You can only do that so many times.
Yeah, right.
So how do you create a villain that's powerful? That, you know, they tie it into that, and I think that's a great idea because that makes the universe feel bigger. Like you know, he's able to get his superpowers from a thing that happened in a different movie.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. And I like when those types of things are interconnected. And even like the multiverse saga that we're going through right now, it isn't one event that happened. Right. It was like, well, Loki screwed things up, and so did Doctor Strange, and so did Spider-Man, and so did Wanda, and so like all of these characters screwed up it broke the multiverse at the same time, and that's why it's suddenly shattered in the way that it did, which I think is also a cool perspective as well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Talk about real quickly Mandalorian season 3.
I need to get on that.
I've been watching that. It's been kind of, I don't want to say hit or miss. It's just they're bouncing all over the place with it. In the first 3 or 4 episodes, I forget how many we're in now, it's just kind of been everywhere. Like the second episode was kind of weird. And then the third episode almost felt like an episode of Andor.
Okay.
Which I was both okay with, but also like, what is going on? You know, like,
Sure.
Again, they're telling a great story, and it's obvious that they're trying to. I feel like, you know, what the shows are doing is fixing all the problems that the movies had. Like Andor did a great job of really giving the Empire some teeth.
Sure.
And now Mandalorian, especially episode 3, I think they're starting to sprinkle in the leading up to the First Order and how they became. It's fairly obvious that that's the direction that they're going. And so, you know, these big movies that were kind of incohesive in their storytelling, they're trying to now come in and with Scotch tape and try and make things fix, which they're doing a decent job of it. I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
But also the fact that they kind of have to hop around, you know, like even Boba Fett, where there's like the episode 6 or 7, whatever it was, where it was basically Mandalorian season 2.5 just popping in there. And I get why they did it for sure, but it was just, you know, it's fine. I have no problem with them hopping around like that. It's, you know, that one issue that I still have is just that tonally it's, you know, it's all similar. I don't want to say the same, because Andor did feel different, but what do you want out of Star Wars? Do you want like a dark, gritty drama, or do you want space action, fun pew-pews?
Right.
And you know, to me, that's what A
I
New
like
Hope,
the pew-pews.
right? And that's what A New Hope was, and that's what, you know, the original trilogy was. And I often joke, like, sometimes it's like, I feel like modern Star Wars storytellers are looking at through the eyes of like a 6-year-old kid that saw Star Wars and it was really intense for them.
Sure.
And now I want that same feeling. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
like if you go play like Final Fantasy VII when you were back in 1996, 1990, whatever, 97, 96, and you play it and like that was a gripping story, and then you go watch it now and it's just these characters wobbling around and you're like, how is this? And then so then they updated it to be, you know, better graphics, all that kind of stuff. But you still have that memory as a child of how emotionally impacting it was.
Sure.
And I feel like that's what now as an adult, or even like action figures. If you've seen like the evolution of action figures, they're like in the Toys That Made Us is a great example where they talk about like the little plastic blobs of action figures that we had back in the 80s, excuse me, or 90s. And then you see like McFarlane and all the major toy manufacturers today that do these really highly detailed that are hundreds of dollars.
Right.
And I'm like, it's not an action figure. It is a model of of this thing, and you pay a pretty penny for it, and it's to sit on a shelf and never be touched.
Yep.
I think that's kind of like how I feel like they've gone with Star Wars and some of the modern storytelling and the stuff is like, you know, here this is that little dinky toy that I threw around as a kid, and now it's this overly detailed, overly dramatic thing. And so, is that good? Is it bad? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you tell us, audience. What do you think? What do you think? And is there anything that we're missing? Is there any shows that we need to be watching, or anything that you're enjoying that or not enjoying? What'd you think of the Green Lantern? I'm ready for that comment section to blow up on that one.
All right, and if you've made it to the end of the episode, leave a comment.
Yes,
and
please.
Let us know.
Yes, please.
I'm always curious if anyone sticks around for the pop culture corner.
Yeah. Should we do like a secret word where it's like,
You got one.
what should it be? If you've made it this far and you're here with us, thank you. Let's do. Do we want to do? Baby Yoda, Mandalorian. What do you think?
Say this is the way.
This is the way.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Awesome.
Thanks for watching.
Well, thanks for watching, everybody.